Welcome to Walkland Farms. We're located in Sherwood, Oregon, and we're a multi-generational family farm. We have multiple businesses at the farm, including the Purple Hen Flowers and Herbs with hanging baskets and lots more in the spring, Amy's Heirloom Vegetables, all grown, no spray, tons of heirloom vegetables, and Papa's Pumpkin Patch, where we grow a variety of fall decor, including many varieties of pumpkins, squash, gourds, and more. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So how do you go from all of this wide open space filled with possibilities to all of this? Pumpkins, squash, gourds, so much more. We grow about 50 acres of this each season. Well, it all starts with your ground. First, we plow. Plowing will help to turn the soil, break down any weeds that have popped up over the last season, and break up any large clods of dirt in preparation for our next step. Now on to rolling. Rolling will continue to help break up clods of dirt and even out the surface in preparation for planting. We will end up doing this one more time before we actually plant. Here's a close-up of the rollers. And now we've got our big red farm truck, and it's got a load of fertilizer on the back. We'll be spreading fertilizer now and one more time after this. You can see with this process you can go a bit faster than we did with the implements on the back. Main goal here is to just get fertilizer over the entire field. And now we're rolling one last time. Now on to planting. First, we're going to go ahead and fill these back hoppers with some fertilizer so it'll directly drop fertilizer as you plant. Now here's some of the seeds that we're planting, just dropping into the hopper here. Now this particular planter is a lot more automated than we're used to. This is the first year we've tried this one. You just have to basically change varieties every time you want to plant something different, and you change that in the hopper. Up until this year, we used a planter like this with two people sitting on the back dropping seeds by hand, one at a time. Thankful for some automation this year. And you can see here the two planters being pulled by the tractor with the two hoppers filled with seeds and the other two hoppers filled with fertilizer. As the tractor moves forward, it pulls the implement and drops a seed and fertilizer simultaneously. And here, if you look closely at the farmer in the cab, you might notice they may not be touching the steering wheel the entire time, and that's because this system is ran by GPS. Very fancy. Here's a close-up of all the fancy technology. And a view from what the farmer sees from inside the cab. They look back often to make sure everything is running smoothly. Here's a close-up of the seeds actually dropping. And 2 rows at a time, the tractor goes around and around and around for about 50 acres or so, planting dozens and dozens of pumpkins, squash, gourds, and more. One thing the farmer will have to do, even though it's on GPS, will have to lift up the planter before you turn around and get lined up for the next row. And continue planting. You can pause here for a quick intermission, then we'll start part 2. Welcome back to part 2. Now that we've got everything planted, the biggest job of the entire summer is watering. We water with what's called a traveler, which is basically a gigantic sprinkler. They come in all different sizes, but we have a pretty large one, but I've definitely seen larger ones for bigger farms. The big hose and the end of the sprinkler gets pulled out by a tractor, and then it slowly reels in as the timer pulls it in. And then we move it to the next field. And on all summer long. Pumpkins, squash, and gourds, they all take a lot of water and a lot of heat. After all this watering, soon enough, this field will be lush and green and filled with pumpkins. Now, as the first few leaves start popping up out of the ground on the pumpkins, we can start cultivating between the rows. Basically, that's just going to get any of those pesky little weeds that have just started popping up out of the way and hopefully be beneficial for later on. This is just one small step that we can do to hopefully help control the weed population as best possible. And on to the next row, scratching up thousands of tiny little weeds before they have a chance to really get a hold. Since there's so many things we can't control as farmers, such as weather, bugs, etc., we try to do as many preventative measures as possible. So hopefully this cultivating now will help a lot of extra work in the future. Once the plants are up and a little bit larger and easy to see, we use an implement called a hydro weeder. It's pulled behind our tractor and someone sits on the back using the arms to pull around each individual plant. It's definitely a lot of work, but again, a lot better than dealing with weeds growing over all your plants in the long run. There's always going to be weeds, but anything we can do to help prevent some of them is very beneficial. Here's a better view. You can see we're driving the tractor quite slow, and the person on the back is moving each arm individually around each plant, and it's taking out the weeds in between them. Of course, every once in a while you might accidentally get a plant, but in the long run, this is incredibly beneficial. Having tried this particular job myself, it's definitely not the worst farm job. It's actually kind of like a video game. But it is definitely quite the arm workout. You have a lot of tension against those arms. And back to watering. Did you know that pumpkins need at least 1 inch of water every week, and possibly more if it's really, really hot out? That's a whole lot of water for a whole lot of plants when you're doing about 50 acres. Pause here for an intermission and we'll see you for part 3. Welcome back. Now, as you can see, the fields are full of green, lush vines, plus little spots of orange here and there. And you can see all those wonderful pumpkins growing. That means just one thing. It's harvest time. It's usually around September, all through October. And we're picking, filling boxes and boxes of many varieties of pumpkins, winter squash, gourds, lots of decorative pumpkins, and more. That's when it's time to open our retail store to the public. We always have a U-pick patch so you can come and pick your own pumpkins. But we also fill our yard and store with all that we have to offer. That varies from year to year depending on new varieties we might find, or some our customers may request. But every year our goal is to always have as many beautiful varieties of whatever we can grow as possible. It's by far our busiest time of year at the farm, with thousands of customers coming in every weekend to come pick out pumpkins. Then at the end of the season, the tractor goes back out to the fields where it all began and works under any leftover pumpkins and does a cover crop, preparing for next year. We'll let the ground rest over winter. See you next fall.